Greetings everyone and welcome back to my channel. Have to say I'm pretty excited today as I'm visiting a place I have not been to in over 20 years. So I am on the grounds of Cantigny Park in Wheaton, Illinois. And this is like I said, a place I haven't been to in about 20 years. My parents lived in the nearby towns of Glen Ellen and Warrenville, Illinois in the early 80s, and they would bring me here in my stroller. So I did visit this place a couple times as a teenager, but I'm very happy to be back here as I go on this YouTube journey. So before we get started here, I just want to remind everyone that if you're interested in seeing museums similar to the one I'm going to show you today, or roadside attractions, historical places, and nature preserves, please consider giving my channel a like and a subscribe. Anyways, without further ado, I give you Cantigny Park. Now, Cantigny Park sits on about 300 acres here in Wheaton, Illinois. It's the former estate of Joseph Medill. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He was the former publisher of the Chicago Tribune, and when he died he left it to his grandson, Colonel Robert McCormick, who was part of the 1st Infantry Division during World War I, and he eventually also became one of the publishers of the Chicago Tribune. And as you can see, there's a lot of spaces to walk around here, and we're going to head over to the McCormick mansion. And the place seems to be pretty popular for weddings as well, as it looks like one is getting ready to occur here this weekend. And this place has quite a few little walkways and paths here. There's also a rose garden, which we'll check out here as well. Just wanted to share one of these smaller walkways though. Give you a chance to see what everything this place has to offer. If you're into plants and flowers, we've got all of these labeled here as well. So what you're looking at right now is the Robert McCormick Museum, which was his former house when he was still living, built in the late 1800s. It's a 35-room mansion that does have tours when it's open. Looks like there's some renovation taking place right now, which is unfortunate, but at least the rest of the grounds are open. We've been able to see that. Have to come back again another time and go inside the place and profile it for another YouTube video. One bit of interesting piece of information about this house was it served as the mansion for Mr. Harvey of the Harvey candy bars, and it was a fictional character in the movie A League of Their Own. Now, the character of Walter Harvey was based off of P.K. Wrigley of the Wrigley Gum Company and future owner of the Chicago Cubs. P.K. Wrigley was instrumental in helping getting the Women's League started, of which the movie was based upon. Oh, this is the burial site of Colonel Robert McCormick and his first wife. On their resting place it says, "Go to prepare a place for you. In my Father's house are many mansions." Brought the right shoes this week. A lot of walking today. There's the other side of the museum. Boy, they must really be doing some major renovations. I understand why this house is 125 years old. So this here is called Tank Park. A lot of times what you see here is kids just having a chance to crawl all over these old U.S. Army tanks. This here's an M48, used primarily during the Vietnam War. This one's called the M551. According to the information that is provided here, it was used primarily for stateside training in the 60s and 70s. This one's called the M60, used by the U.S. military between 1960 and 1980. I thought this was interesting here. The T-26E4 heavy tank was developed in 1945 to try and combat the heavily armored German tanks. The one made it to Europe before the war ended, and this one here is the only one remaining of the 25 that were produced. Thought that was very interesting. This one is the M24, which arrived in Europe during World War II in 1944, and then was used in the Korean War as well. And this is the M5, which was used at the beginning of World War II. And the placard says that it didn't stand much of a chance against the heavier German tanks, which I could see why, because this thing is tiny compared to some of the other ones I've seen here at the park so far. As I mentioned before, it's been a while since I've been here, but I want to say that the tanks actually used to be out in this field here, over near the front entrance of the property. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Colonel Robert McCormick was a member of the 1st Infantry Division of the U.S. Army, and he renamed this property the Cantigny after the Battle of Cantigny, which he participated in during World War I. And one of the spots on this campus is this building right behind me, 1st Infantry Division Museum. So we're going to go check that out. 1st Infantry Division Museum is right here next to Tank Park. You know, growing up, my mom used to always pronounce this place Cantigny. But over time, I think I learned that the G was silent. It's actually pronounced Cantigny. Entering the World War I section now. Portrayal on the Battle of Cantigny. Here's an actual village sign from the Battle of Cantigny, which was a village in France. This was following the battle which took place in May of 1918. Remember this section here, it's to give you an idea of what the trenches were like during World War I, and the trench warfare that soldiers had to endure. French and German gas masks. There's the insignia of the 1st Division. Entering the World War II section now. So here's the M1 Garand rifle, which was used primarily by the U.S. military during World War II. Going to be entering into the D-Day section of the museum right now, and I'd say this has always been my most fascinating piece of the entire World War II campaign was June 6, 1944, Normandy invasion. So we're going to take you in there and we'll check it out. This year's General Eisenhower's message to the troops before they embark on the D-Day invasion, dated June 5th, 1944. Before you head inside, it starts with this short movie about the D-Day invasion.
The fate of the entire war now rests upon a single day. The Allies are about to launch Operation Open, the largest amphibious invasion in history. The goal? Open a new front in France and battle their way into Germany to bring the war to an end. The Germans had spent 2 years building the Atlantic Wall, a powerful defensive line made of millions of tons of steel and concrete and countless mines. Thousands of German soldiers lie in wait, hoping to crush the Allies before they can get a foothold on the continent. Meanwhile, an enormous armada of real ships is being readied for a surprise attack farther south on 5 beaches in Normandy. The battle-hardened 1st Division is given the unenviable job of taking Omaha Beach, which lies at the crux of the multi-pronged attack. Once on the beach, the men must somehow advance 500 yards through crisscrossing machine gun and anti-tank fire. The stakes couldn't be higher. If the invasion fails, the conflict in Europe could drag on for years, giving Germany time to win the war. The 1st Division is part of Assault Force O, commanded by Major General Clarence Hubert. After several days spent waiting aboard transport ships, Assault Force O sets out across the English Channel. It is D-Day. 12 miles offshore, the troops scramble down road cargo nets into landing craft, 32 men per vessel. Hours pass as the vessel organizing with salt waves before pressing forward. The pre-dawn sky this morning is dark and overcast, the sea especially rough. The men are drenched by ocean spray, many are seasick. The ram drops. The men of the Big Red One spill out into waist-deep water and head straight into the jaws of death. They are the first wave onto Omaha Beach. The fate of the war lies in their hands.
Seeing these transport boats here when I was a kid, but I don't remember them being this big. Amazing. One over here as well. There's the M1 helmet, 1st Division insignia, and major rank. Obstacles the German army put up. Here's the barbed wire posts the Allies had to cut through to advance those 500 yards up the beach. It looked like this was the Battle of the Bulge room now, and if you don't know, the Battle of the Bulge was Germany's last major offensive in December of 1944. 1st Infantry Division had to hold the line in the bitter cold in Belgium to keep the German army at bay. Just off Hitler's last-ditch effort before the war was eventually lost. Entering the Vietnam War, this is the Viet Cong's uniform and weaponry. And the Viet Cong were actually South Vietnamese who were fighting for the communist cause of the North. There's the North Vietnamese uniform. This here is called a party suit, which was used for off-duty activities and recreation. This one was done for Major General Albert E. Malloy while serving as commander of the 24th Corps in Vietnam. M16 service rifle was common during the Vietnam War. Before we head over to the other section of the museum, I just wanted to take a look at this monument here, the Spirit of American Youth, which is about 1/2 size the replica of the original, which stands in Normandy as a testament to the lives lost on D-Day. These smaller monuments here honor the 1st Division soldiers who died. It's from France, 5,516 in World War I, who's in World War II, Vietnam, Gulf War, and the War on Terror. Piece of the Berlin Wall here, which split East Berlin and West Berlin. Wall stood from 1961 until 1989. Uniform of Nurse Judy. Nurse Jody, I should say. During the Iraq War of 2003. There's a picture of her right there. Uniform and weaponry of the Iraqi Republican Guard. This is the Soviet RPG. It was used by the Iraqi forces. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to experience the battle at Objective Norfolk, as the lady out front said that the computers are down, so none of the screens are working in this section of the museum today. That's alright, we can still see a lot of the exhibits. Black Hawk helicopter on display here. I don't realize how massive these things are until you see them in person. Amazing. One thing I wanted to point out here is the yellow ribbons that are tied around the trees of Cantigny Park and how it's a symbol of support for military troops. Talks about the 100 ribbons that are tied around trees at Cantigny Park to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the 100-hour ground war during the Persian Gulf War in 1991. Some of the yellow ribbons that are tied to the trees around Tank Park here. I noticed them earlier and was looking for signage to find the symbolism behind it. I'm glad I did and was able to share it with you. One of the gardens that is on property here. Please stay out of natural area. So this is the path out of the garden towards more walkway. Chimney Swift Tower for a bird called the chimney swift. sits along the side of the mansion here. Coming up on the rose garden now. Pink and white roses here. These here look to be hot pink. Thought this was an interesting looking tree here in the middle of this garden. Information about that tree. Carving into the bark of this tree is killing it, letter by letter. Every cut into this beech's very thin bark reduces its life expectancy. Interesting. I don't know if you can see it on this video, but it looks like somebody has been carving into this tree. Inside the gift shop now, and quite a bit of Chicago memorabilia here. Got Chicago television, Chicago Then and Now, book on the 1993 World's Fair and Al Capone, as well as some Cantigny Park swag. And some caps as well. So inside the visitor center they do have a section where they talk about the history of the place. It started off as Red Oaks Farm under Joseph Medill. Robert McCormick continued farm. Robert McCormick. Picture of the house, not under construction. 1958, the park opened to the public. 1960, the First Division Museum opened, followed by the gardens in 1967, and the golf course in 1989. There's a mural portraying the life of Colonel McCormick. Under this glass floor looks to be the golf course. And here's the property. Right there is the mansion, by the Garden and Visitor Center, and the First Division Museum. Just talked to the lady inside the Visitor Center, and the McCormick Museum is indeed under renovation, and it's not expected to be done until sometime next year. So we'll have to make a return visit here and profile the mansion. So this is what you see when you walk out the back entrance of the Visitor Center. So that's going to do it for today from Cantigny Park and the First Division Museum. Gotta say, it was nice to be back here. Been over 20 years. I tell you, I've lived close to this place for such a long time and rarely ever came here, but I think I'll be a regular now, especially since we've got to do another profile of the McCormick Museum next year when the renovations are over. So, but remember, as a reminder, if you like this sort of content, please consider giving my channel a like and subscribe. I like to visit museums similar to this one, nature preserves, historical places, roadside attractions. Anyway, I appreciate you being here and joining me on this adventure through Cantigny Park and the First Division Museum, and I'll see you in the next video.